For the sake of completeness, I thought I'd do an extra retrospective covering the 3 Blackadder specials that have been released over the years. One's good, one's middling, and one's pretty bad if I'm being honest. Starting with Blackadder The Cavalier years.
Oh, damn. One measly civil war in the entire history of England, and I'm on the wrong bloody side.
This is a 15-minute special episode set during the English Civil War, produced for the very first comic relief, which for non-British viewers is a comedy charity telethon aired by the BBC biannually since 1988. It isn't unusual for the biggest comedy shows of the day to produce a short special episode for the event, with this being Blackadder's contribution airing between the 3rd and 4th series, although chronologically it comes before the 3rd series and after the 2nd. A few familiar faces make a return, with Rowan Atkinson and Tony Robinson obviously being Edmund and Baldric, along with Stephen Fry as King Charles I. The cast is rounded out by Warren Clarke, who made a guest appearance in Series 3 as the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. Hugh Laurie and Tim McInerney also make uncredited appearances as a guard and voicing the crowd respectively. I had never until now actually ever bothered seeing this special, and it's not too bad. There's a few laugh out loud moments and it only lasts 15 minutes, so it isn't long enough to overstay its welcome. We get all the series staples, an opening text card narration setting up what is to follow, read by Harry Enfield, making his first and to my knowledge only appearance in Blackadder. King Charles has already lost the Civil War and is left with only 2 friends, Blackadder and Baldric. There are only 2 sets in this special, and one of them is quite clearly the kitchen set from Series 3, with the vast majority of the episode taking place here. The king is attempting to hide from the Roundheads, with Baldric being under strict orders to deny he is hiding at Blackadder's house. Somewhat surprisingly, and in a twist on the usual formula, he actually initially manages this fairly well compared to his usually very low standards. That is until he says this to Cromwell.
Now, we shall all have a cup of milk by your fireside.
All right, but don't touch the purple cup.
Why not?
That's the king's.
It is at this point we are introduced to Stephen Fry as King Charles I, doing his very best impression of the former Prince of Wales and current King Charles III. His impression is absolutely spot on, and fairly amusing, including this catchphrase.
Have you come far? I have, sir. From country squire to Lord Protector of England. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
In his and Edmund's little interaction, we also get probably one of the 2 genuinely great jokes in this, with Blackadder receiving the jury verdict and giving the king 2 guesses as to the verdict.
I'll give you 2 guesses.
Not guilty.
1 more guess.
Followed by this joke where Blackadder is too lazy to even punch Baldric, so has him do this.
However, I'm a busy man and I can't be bothered to punch you at the moment. Here's my fist. Kindly run towards it as fast as you can.
Being an executioner obviously runs in the Baldric family, as he once again gets an executioner's job to kill the king. Don't worry, he has a cunning plan to let him escape. As always, the plan is entirely ridiculous.
I have one that I prepared earlier. I will balance it on the king's head like this.
Edmund, being a Blackadder, is a man of honour and integrity. Sorry, I've got that totally wrong. I mean, he's the opposite of that. So once he learns how much Baldric is being paid, he himself decides to do the deed. A plan foiled by the fact the king recognises his voice, meaning that Blackadder has to put into action Baldric's plan from before with entirely predictable results. He then truly dishonours himself by giving up the infant Prince Charles, pulling off his long hair and beard to reveal a roundhead haircut, denouncing the royalist Baldric as Cromwell advances on him with a sword in hand, cut to credits. As I said before, this has some genuinely funny moments and is only 15 minutes, so well worth your time. The next special we are going to cover is another British staple, that is the Christmas special, Blackadder's Christmas Carol,
What a jolly fellow.
Look like a fat git to me.
which first aired 23rd of December 1988. This one has a lot of these is a parody of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, being a reverse Christmas Carol if you will, where Ebenezer Blackadder, the nicest man in England, breaks bad after being shown his Christmas past and futures. We open with our introduction to the nice Mr. Ebenezer Blackadder and Mr. Baldric, as he's consistently ripped off and taken advantage of by a procession of chancers. We also get the return and reunification of Miriam Margolyes and Jim Broadbent as Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, with Jim once again doing a wonderful line in silly accents. This opening has some decent enough laughs, with probably the best for me being this one from Blackadder about his festive Christmas twig.
It's a bit of a tiddler, ain't it?
Yes, but size isn't important, my friend. It's not what you've got, it's where you stick it.
And we get a pretty funny callback joke about Baldric's total and utter inability to learn or do simple maths.
Yes, come on, Mr. Baldric. £17 and a penny minus £17 leaves...
£38, 8 shillings a form.
We then get the entry of Robbie Coltrane as the Spirit of Christmas, who shows Blackadder two visions of his ancestors' Christmas pasts. First up is Series 2 and return of that series' entire main cast, where Edmund tries to trick Melchi into getting executed by getting him to give the Queen a big Christmas present, knowing full well she now hates Christmas. Sadly for him, she changes her mind in the interim and bestows Melchi with a bunch of land and titles, leaving Blackadder no choice but to trick them both into signing an execution warrant for Melchi, meaning he gets the land and titles. The second vision is a return to Series 3 and the return of Prince George plus a passed out Horatio Nelson. Here we get two high points of this episode for me. First up is Baldric playing charades.
Okay, off you go, Baldric. It's a book.
Well done, Mr. B. I didn't think you'd get it that quickly.
Such a simple joke to make, but hilarious nonetheless. Then George not knowing what syllables are.
2 syllables.
2 silly bulls? You say Blackadder, not in the Bible. I can remember a fatted calf, but as I recall, that was quite a sensible animal.
Again, a fairly obvious joke at Prince George's expense, but an hilarious one. This version of Blackadder being a conniving weasel, he gets Baldric to dress up as a kindly old granny, collecting for charity, planning to then rob the prince. Sadly for him, a kindly old granny beats him to it, seeing as Baldric let her in, leading some classic Blackadder on Baldric violence.
Sorry, Mr. B.
No, it's perfectly alright, it's not your fault.
He then goes and robs the granny. At this point, Ebenezer Blackadder is starting to see the error of his ways in being nice and demands to see the future if he turns to the dark side, which is, well, it's weird and wouldn't be out of place in one of the obscure 80s B-movies I usually cover on this channel. Then Baldric enters looking like this. A horrible time to have eyes, but I gotta admit, I laughed out loud. In the end, he ends up marrying Miranda Richardson and ruling the entire known universe. Well, his ancestors do. If he doesn't turn to the dark side, he ends up wearing Baldric's spare jockstrap. Obviously, he immediately starts being an utter bastard. We just have time for a bit of a comedic musical number from the Overfed Orphans.
Christmas to be at Christmas time and baby Jesus too. If we were little pigs we'd sing piggy wiggy 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 woo. Piggy wiggy 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 woo. Oh piggy wiggy wiggy woo. Piggy wiggy woo. Oh piggy wiggy 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 woo.
Which I have to admit made me chuckle quite a bit. When Queen Victoria turns up attempting to grant Blackadder £50,000 and turn him into a baron, shame he goes on this quite epic rant at her expense.
Talk it, fatso. Don't you realise that this is the Victorian age, where apart from Queen Piglet features herself, women and children are to be seen and not heard?
Queen Piglet features?
Yes. Empress Oink, as lads call her.
Meaning he gets nothing. This is a great standalone special Christmas episode. You get all of the main cast and some of the best special guests who all do a fantastic job. The twist on the usual Christmas Carol is entertainingly handled, especially with the twist to the twist that actually him turning into an utter bastard backfired on him. You get some decent enough running gags, new ones and returning ones, Baldric getting punched in the face repeatedly, and Jim Broadbent's Prince Albert even has his very own catchphrase of sorts where he reveals secrets constantly.
The Blackadder lives here.
Ah, that is good, because we have a wunderbar secret.
What secret?
Ha! If I were to tell you that we're going to give him an enormous fortune for being so generous, then it would no longer be a secret. Damn, I'm so stupid.
Sadly, we had to wait 11 years for the next Blackadder special, which was a special Millennium Dome edition of the show.
Despair. It is my firm belief that God hates the British. He will intervene miraculously and send us a glorious victory on this field of Waterloo. Oh, bravo!
The final episode in the Blackadder saga cost £3 million, and for that huge budget, we got probably the most unfunny outing of our two heroes by far. We open with all of the main stars from the prior series eating dinner, and Baldric as cook, where we get a familiar couple of jokes. Firstly, the fact that Baldric is a rubbish cook, and then some more absolute eye poison when we see his naked ass. After dinner, Edmund plans to scam all of his friends by pretending he has a time machine and betting them £10,000 that he can bring certain items back from the past. Unbeknownst to him, Baldric has actually built a working time machine. I honestly don't think there is a single laugh to be had in this opening, a fact that isn't helped by the lack of a laugh track on the DVD version of this episode. They added one for the BBC showing, which I watched at the time, and I have to admit I didn't find it funny then either. The lack of a laugh track makes it even more painfully unfunny when an attempted joke just lands dead on arrival. What follows is a series of attempted comedic sketches set at different points in time. We see the dinosaurs. We return to Series 2 and the court of Queen Elizabeth II, where the big joke is Blackadder attempts to give his Tesco rewards card to the Queen. I imagine this joke, and I use that word in its very loosest sense, is only here because Tesco paid money to sponsor this short movie. Once that fails, he gives her a polo mint. Yeah, that's the punchline here. The Queen sucks a polo mint and enjoys it. The lack of a laugh track means I'm not even sure if this is meant to be a joke, but it comes at a point in this skit where this should be the big punchline, laugh out loud moment, but instead it just comes across as blatant unfunny product placement. On his way out, Edmund bumps into William Shakespeare, who was the inspiration for a lot of Series 1's episodes, and here he's played by Colin Firth of Mr. Darcy fame, and the big joke is this.
Oh, and just one more thing. Yeah. That is for every schoolboy and schoolgirl for the next 400 years.
We then get Rick Mayall as Robin Hood, and if anyone can save this, it's him. I did get a few chuckles out of him saying woof. I'm an easy man to please. I see Rick Mayall say woof, and I laugh. We also get a cameo from Kate Moss as Maid Marian, who it is implied does the dirty with Blackadder after he gets Robin Hood killed. They then kill the Duke of Wellington by landing on him prior to the Battle of Waterloo. The Duke, obviously having already appeared in the show in Series 3, and he was brilliant. You'd think they'd keep him as the same character, but for no apparent reason, he's totally different here.
Excellent. I have a superb plan which cannot fail but result in the complete destruction of the French army.
Oh, splendid. Well, tell me at once, Your Grace, and I'll spread the news to the troops.
Very well. The plan is... God, I'm brilliant. You know, I surprise myself sometimes. I really do.
The only other joke is that the French are puffs. I honestly don't know. The next skit is set in Roman times at Hadrian's Wall, where the first joke is that Hadrian's Wall is 3 feet tall. The second joke is genuinely probably one of only 2 times I laughed out loud in the whole show.
Say, this is interesting. There appears to be a large orange hedge moving towards us.
That's not a hedge, Consul. That's the Scots.
Now I should add, seeing as this time machine was built by Baldric, he obviously cocked it up. and so they can't get home, but don't worry because he has a cunning plan to get them back to their own time. This leads to the only genuine belly laugh I had in the entire 33-minute runtime.
How's it going?
I'm 18 years old. I've just left nursery school.
Okie dokie.
I'm 25. I'm back at nursery school.
The ending sees them finally get back home and find they've changed history. Have to go back, fix it, and return to only then realise they can go back and change time for their own benefit. Let's be honest, mainly Edmund's, and we end with Edmund as King Edmund III married to Kate Moss, and with Baldric as his Prime Minister, which makes him the second dumbest Prime Minister we've ever had, just ahead of Liz Truss. Back and forth is such a disappointing way for Blackadder to have ended, because I just don't find it at all amusing. It has all the elements of prior series, but something just doesn't work here for me personally that makes all of those series' favourite recurring jokes feel flat and unfunny. Feels like a pale imitation of the real thing, and that's a really sad way to end what has been 5 months and probably more than 200 hours of my life making videos on one of my favourite series of all time. But sadly, that is where we have to end it because there are no more Blackadder episodes left for me to cover. If you want to see what I'll be covering in the future, please like, comment and subscribe.